Hi, this is episode 71 of Crondos. I'm your host, Jordan Hudgens. I'm a Ruby dev and the CTO of the DevCamp platform. If you're a web developer, using hexadecimal color codes to style pages is probably familiar to you. In this guide, I'm going to walk through how hexadecimals work with a focus on how you can understand the numbering system to make better color estimates when you're working on projects. Before we can walk through how hexadecimals work in web applications, it helps to know what the hexadecimal numbering system is. I'm assuming you're already familiar with our standard numbering system, which looks like this. Our number system is called a base 10 number system because our numbers can be created by combining any of these 10 digits. Hexadecimals work a little bit differently. The hexadecimal numbering system is a base 16 configuration. I say numbering lightly because, as you can see, hexadecimals are made up of numbers and a few letters of the alphabet. Essentially, this means that hexadecimal numbers can be made up of 16 elements instead of the 10 that we're used to. Technically, you could successfully make it through life without understanding how hexadecimals work. However, if you're a web developer or designer, I highly recommend at least understanding the basics of hexadecimals. When building out a web application, you'll most likely need to configure CSS files. As shown here, a CSS file has the potential to be filled with hexadecimal numbers. These numbers represent different colors on the color spectrum, and because hexadecimals can be used to store large value representations, they're perfect for defining colors in CSS files. There are a number of hexadecimal color converters on the web, which makes hexadecimal knowledge optional. However, I personally prefer how to understand how the tools I work with function, don't you? As usual, let's take a look at a practical example that you would come across in a web application. In this CSS file, you'll see a number of spots where we're defining a color for different components on a website. Let's compare and contrast 80C0C0 and FF8080. These two color definitions will generate the following color scheme. So what exactly are these numbers representing? Let's walk through some hexadecimal math. The first rule to understand is that you read numbers from right to left. This means that the first number in 80C0C0 is actually 0. The next rule to remember is that each hexadecimal element represents a specific value. For example, 8 is equal to 8, but C is equal to 12. Here's a mapping of each of the hexadecimal numbers to its respective value. With this knowledge, we can create a breakdown of each value from right to left for 80C0C0. 0 is equal to 0. C is equal to 12. 0 is equal to 0. C is equal to 12. 0 is equal to 0. And lastly, 8 is equal to 8. With our values in place, we now need to generate the sequence of 16 exponents. Starting from right to left, we begin with 16 to the power 0, which equals 1, followed by 16 to the power of 1, which equals 16, etc. And we'll increment this sequence for each value that we're looking to convert. Lastly, we multiply the value of the hexadecimal element by the exponential value of 16 for that associated placement. And we end by adding each of the items all together. Running these calculations will show that the actual value for the hexadecimal number 80C0C0 is 8,437,952. I hope that this has been a helpful guide to understanding how hexadecimals work and that you'll be more comfortable the next time you see them in a CSS file. They aren't a secret code, simply a way to represent large numbers to bring some color to your applications.